Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at some of the guns they're going to be selling in their upcoming April of 2018 firearms auction. We have two today to take a look at. These are Kimball 30 caliber carbine semi-auto pistols, which sounds pretty cool, and they even look pretty cool. But these did not last very long on the marketplace. Kimball made I've seen different numbers, somewhere between 250 and 300 of these before they stopped and immediately went out of business because the guns had some interesting engineering features that didn't quite work the way they were supposed to. So of course, in the 1950s, and I should say that's when we are talking about, these were introduced in 1955, the hot tactical firearm to have in the 50s was the M1 Carbine. It was light, it was high capacity, it was semi-auto, it was controllable. In many ways, it was the AR-15 of its day. So you could tactical it out with, well, they made scope mounts for them, add some magazine pouches to the stock. This was a legitimately excellent light combat rifle at the time. And so what would be more appropriate and cool than to have a pistol in the matching cartridge, a 30 caliber automatic pistol, a 30 carbine automatic pistol. That's what Kimball set out to do. Now, 30 carbine is not really a pistol cartridge. It's not a full power rifle cartridge, but it's substantial enough that you really need to have a locked breech system to use it, or at least you need something. And what Kimball did was a delayed blowback system. And the method of delay is one that's not quite unique, but very uncommon to find, and that is an annular ring in the front of the chamber. So normally you'd think of the chamber of a firearm as being this nice straight, cut to the exact contour of the cartridge to maintain a gas seal. Well, what Kimball did was they took that and then they actually opened it up a little bit right at the mouth of the cartridge so that when you fire, the brass expands into this ring in the front of the chamber. And having expanded like that, now it can't extract out the back of the chamber because, well, the front's flared out and holding it in place. So before it can extract, it then has to bend the front of the case back in, and then it can start to extract out the back of the chamber. The theory was that will delay opening of the breech block long enough for pressure to drop, and presto, you have a safe firearm. There are some other guns that have used this system. The one that immediately comes to mind is a 25 ACP automatic pistol made in Germany called the MAN, M-A-N-N. And 25 ACP is a lot more conducive to questionable delaying mechanisms than 30 carbine. And that was ultimately the problem with the Kimball pistols, is that they didn't delay enough. The velocity of the slide when it started moving was way too high. And it actually, there's a little part inside here, and we'll take a look at it in just a moment, that is what actually stops the slide at the end of travel. And the slide was hitting that thing so hard that it was deforming them, bending them, and eventually breaking them off. So let me show you exactly what that thing was. There were two versions of the Kimball made. There was the short-barreled combat version and the long-barreled target version. It's pretty cool to have examples of both. They did also have some experimental ones that are out there. They planned to offer these in a bunch of additional calibers beyond the original 30 carbine. So there's at least one experimental one that they made in 22 Hornet. Apparently they were planning on 38 Special and 357 Magnum. None of those things came to pass because the company went out of business too quickly. And mechanically, I should say that the target and the combat here are identical. So we'll go ahead and I think we'll take apart the combat one and show you exactly how it works. But first, things to look for here marking-wise, we have J. Kimball Arms Company, Detroit, Michigan. They were made in Detroit. Caliber is marked on the slide. And the one last marking is a serial number on the right side of the frame. This one's somewhere right about halfway through production. The safety is located right there over the trigger. This is in the safe position. You can see the S. Slide it forward, and it is in the fire position. Sometimes you will find that dot filled with red to indicate fire. And then the magazine release is located here in this kind of odd position. And these two, in fact, both of them have very tight magazines. So I'm going to push in the button, and then I can pull out the magazine. So the cut for the magazine catch is right there. And this does not look like a particularly durable magazine to me. but I've never actually used one. Now, it's probably plenty durable enough to match the lifespan of the pistol, which I guess isn't saying a whole lot. Anyway, that's it for controls. Now, to take this apart, we have a disassembly button right here. And to do this, by the way, the slide does not lock open on an empty magazine. This feels basically like a blowback slide. In fact, this is a blowback slide. All of the delaying mechanism is up in the chamber. So once the slide starts moving, it's just mass and spring weight. So to take it apart, we're going to open the slide and push this button down. There we go. And then we let the slide the rest of the way in, and now it's loose. So what this has done is sort of disconnect the recoil springs. The Kimball has the dubious honor of being the only pistol I can think of that I've run into where the geometric, like the physical positioning of the gun impacts disassembly. Because at this point, in order to take the slide off, you have to point the pistol down, and I'm going to kind of jiggle it and hit it, and then the slide comes off the back. Now the reason that its angle matters is because it's got this thing. So this button in the top of the slide is just pushing on this little piece of spring sheet metal. And when it's down, you can see that it's actually holding the two dual recoil springs there. So normally those recoil springs are going to come all the way to the back of the slide like this. So that's why with disassembly you have to open it up, which contracts the springs up into this area, then push the button down and then let the slide down so that the springs hit on and hold this metal piece in place. Then you have to make sure that this slide stop is in the downward position, and it's just on a peg here. And it pivots in and out of the receiver. So that's why I need the pistol down, make sure that that thing is down on the inside, then the slide comes off. When the gun is actually in battery, these are standing up like this, and this is the surface that these recoil springs are actually sitting on. So this was the problem at the weak point of the pistol. What people who shot these found was that the slide was hitting the back end of the frame, the springs fully compressed, so they're now just solid pressed together metal, and then imparting a lot of energy into this little block. And this block would start to peen and eventually crack, and in theory, shear off and allow the slide to go shooting off the back of the pistol. Now, I have not been able to find any documented cases of that actually happening, of anyone being hurt by this, but that was the concern at the time. Now, if you're wondering, well, what on earth happens if this falls down while the gun's ready to fire, rest assured it can't, because the two recoil springs are pushing against it. So as long as the gun's assembled, this is going to be in this position. Now, I've got a light in the barrel, which is really cool. You can actually see the annular ring in there. So the black ring at the front is the end of the chamber, and that's normally where the brass stops and the bullet goes onto the rifling, called the throat. The ring behind it just slightly is that annular ring it's a groove cut around the circumference of the chamber that the brass expands into, and that's what gives you the delaying action. So pretty cool to be able to see that. And that is the entirety of what this pistol depended on for its delaying system. Beyond that, pretty standard. There's a hammer back here. We have a typical spring-loaded firing pin in there. We have a nice big extractor right there. And then this is the connection to the front of one of the recoil springs. The other one is underneath the extractor. So that's what these other two pins are for. This one, I believe, holds in that recoil spring. This one holds in the extractor and probably the other recoil spring. Normally I don't show reassembly as well as disassembly, but if you have one of these, this can be a little bit tricky as well, and I want to make sure I cover it. So to reassemble the gun, you want to make sure that this block is lying down so that we can put the slide on, and it's going to have a little bit of stiffness there because it has to run over the hammer. Once the gun is down, now you need to shake it, and we actually heard the little ledge click back up in there. Once that block is upward, then you just pull the slide back until the recoil springs catch on that locking wedge. Then this little button will snap up on its own, and the gun's assembled, and you're good to go. And as you saw in this case, a little jostling too much popped this back up by itself, and presto, it's reassembled. So I can do it again just to show you. So once you have the slide on, make sure the block's down, and then pull the slide back. There we go. Pull it back to here. There goes the button, and the gun's reassembled. So I think you can see the problems with these pistols. They were hyped, they were advertised when they were first released, but they were bad enough quality-wise, design-wise, that even normal print magazine gun rag hype couldn't save this pistol. They sent one, I think it was to American Rifleman, one of the NRA publications at the time, and the editors got it and started shooting it and then had all these problems turn up, and so they sent it back. Hey, gun's got some problems, let's get a better one or fix it or something. And the replacement they got was just as bad, and nothing could save this short of a redesign, which it never got. So because of the quantities made, obviously these are quite scarce guns today, and the fact that once you start shooting them, they maybe don't last all that long. So if you would like to add one of these to your own collection, they are a very cool example of, well, design and manufacture gone not quite right. If you take a look at the description text below the video, you'll find links to catalog pages for both of these pistols at Rock Island, and that will have their pictures, their description, their price estimates, everything you need to know to place a bid here at the auction live or through Rock Island's website. Thanks for watching.